All right, so let's start off with the indices. SPY, QQQ, right? 1 second, screen sliding. Okay, so based on the weekly chart, SPY looks like it's currently just range bound, right? What that means is it's chopping between these two ranges, right? 6010 or 610 is definitely a clear resistance, and then we have this 583 level where we rejected once before, right? And then we finally broke out, and then we got multiple bounces off this 583 level before the last couple weeks, right? And then again we tested that level and then we bounced, right? So definitely some clear support at that 583 level, but if we end up losing that 583 level, then good chance that we can get a bigger pullback, right? And see something that goes all the way down to maybe even that 565 level, right? Because the next key support be around here, right? Notice how we rejected here, then rejected again, and then we finally broke out, right? So this 563 level is definitely a key support level. So if we end up losing 583, 563 should be the target. All right, let's look at the daily chart as well. Do you guys notice any gap fill plays here on this chart, right? I'll give you an example. Let me clear up my chart. Right, last time we gapped up in November 5th, right? And then we ended up forming a gap here, right? And then this gap held up pretty well initially, right? The first couple weeks it held up, it bounced, right? And then again it bounced, right? And then eventually it finally ended up filling this gap, right? I think it took around like 2 months, right? And then again we formed another gap up here, right? We gapped up here, and then we ended up consolidating really well, right? Forming a nice flag. We tried to break out and then ended up failing, and exactly where we gap, or exactly where the gap started, right? We ended up bouncing. And the same thing happened last time as well. So I'm not saying this is going to be the bottom, right? But this is exactly where we should have bounced, and that's what happened. So that's a good sign. And on Friday we got a good increase in volume, right? So that's another good sign as well. That's a sign that institutions are basically supporting this bounce, right? And they're the ones that bought this dip, right? Usually when you see an increase in volume, it's a good sign, and it's a sign that possibly institutions are buying up the stock, right? All right, so that's that's SPY. Let's take a look at QQQ. All right, so QQQ is very similar. It's also range bound, right? And again, what that means is it's in between a base here, right? So clear resistance at that 540 level, and looks like it's got some support around the 500 level, which makes sense. Whole numbers are typically good key levels, so it seems like that 500 is definitely a strong level that we should be paying attention to, right? So weekly chart looks fine. Yeah, we've been in a very strong uptrend, right, for over a year now, like almost 2 years, right? This entire part we were trending very nicely, and now we're starting some consolidation phase, right? So that's completely normal action, and that's expected, right, after such a big move up. So some sideways action or even a little bit of a correction is completely normal, and that doesn't mean we're going into a bear market or anything like that, right? And again, QQQ bounced exactly where it needed to, right? This is a key support level, and we ended up bouncing. So Friday, really good action, but we'll see what happens. And even on the weekly, if you look at it, it kind of looks like it was forming a little bit of a hammer, right? I think SPY formed a better hammer, yeah, much better hammer, right? It got a good close on the week. QQQ also decent close, right? But my point is, on Friday, buyers stepped up, so that's a good sign. And let's also look at IWM. So IWM here also looks, it looks very choppy, right, compared to SPY or QQQ, right? Let's go to the weekly. Right, notice how choppy this one is, right? ever since 2020, it wasn't able to make or it did make a new high, but pretty much went nowhere, right? Compare that to SPY and QQQ. SPY's high from 2021 was around here, and now it's all the way up here, right? So IWM is definitely a laggard, right? This one doesn't move as nicely, and IWM represents like the small and mid cap, so these names are much weaker, and we should be avoiding them for now, right? The money or the easy money is still in the bigger cap names, right? So like names like Spotify or the big caps, like Costco, Nvidia got some selling, but this one, yeah. Netflix is a good example. This one has been holding up pretty well, right? So a lot of the big money is still flowing into the big cap names, right? Another one is LOY. This one had a very nice recovery, right? And on the weekly charts breaking out. But yeah, we'll go over more individual names in a second. Let's just finish up here. So IWM here is very choppy, right? So we should still be avoiding these smaller cap and mid cap names. And then let's also take a look at ARKK, right? The only reason I look at this ETF is because it's a good indicator of how growth stocks could perform over the next couple months, right? So previously in 2020, ARKK formed a base for almost 2 years, right? It failed many times, right? It rejected here, rejected here, rejected here, tried to break out, and then it finally got a nice breakout and ended up failing, and then finally it took off, right? And once it took off, this one went from $53 to $159, right? So that's a big move, 213%, right? So when growth stocks are moving like that, you're going to find many opportunities in the market, right? And that's when you want to really get aggressive. So this one, it looks like it tried to break out of its base again. Let me clean up the chart. So it formed a big base again, right? For almost 2 years. It tried to break out, but looks like it's pulling back in again, right? So this one doesn't look that hot right now. It doesn't have a lot of momentum like it did back in 2021. So I would say growth stocks are still in a void for now, but if we can clear up that 64 level again, there's a good chance that we can see some momentum coming back in. All right, got a request for DIA. We can take a look at that real quick. So this one looks similar to SPY and QQQ, right? This one is in between a base as well. This one is actually a little bit stronger as it's forming some sort of flag here, right? A mini flag is forming. So if it can take out this flag, then yeah, this is pretty bullish and it can go up much higher, right? So yeah, this one looks pretty good. All right, before I do individual ticker requests, I'm just going to go through some of the names that I've been watching for next week, right? And yeah, some good setups, right? So, all right, so I'll take all of those questions in a sec. Let's just go over some individual names. Okay, so the first one will be Uber, right? All right, this has been forming a very nice base for pretty much a year now, right? And it's showing some relative strength. It had a very nice rally this week, on this specific week, right? This candle, and this week it's pretty much just consolidating, right? It's forming a flag. So if this one takes out this week's high or last week's high, there's a very good chance that this could break out higher, right? On the daily chart though, this looks very choppy, right? So you really want to wait until you get confirmation, right? And wait for this breakout to happen and then buy, right? Sometimes the best entry is waiting for confirmation because it makes the probability of the trade much higher. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. But yeah, Uber looks good, especially on the weekly chart, right? If it breaks this flag, this one can make another leg up. And yeah, if it breaks this base, right, 82 level, it could make a much bigger move because it's been forming a base for such a long time, right? So it has a lot of gas in the tank, basically. Let's look at Tesla. Tesla looks like it got the bounce right where it needed to, right? And again, if you were listening to the SPY gap up play, right, this is the same thing, right? Here's the gap that it needed to fill, right? Once you go below that 275 level, there's a very, very good chance that you're going to end up filling the gap. But it looks like that's exactly where we bounced. So bulls are trying to hold this level. And yeah, if we don't end up holding, then 254 would be the next target. But in general, Tesla still looks extremely bearish to me, right? This one had a big correction from the highs, 488 to 275, right? So big correction. There's no setup on it for now, right? But if it starts consolidating for a little bit and then forming a flag, like forming a mini base here, right? I would be interested. Let it go sideways and then let it tighten up and then break down, right? And that's what I want to see on this one. But right now, there's no real setup unless you're playing that bounce play. Nvidia, this one also got a pretty nice bounce on Friday, right? So that's good. But overall, this one is just very choppy, right? Unless it clears that 133 level, there's no real momentum here, right? You can pretty much just chop around here for quite some time, right? So this one is kind of like no setup here, right? So I would avoid this one for now. SE, this one looks pretty good to me. Right, this one is similar, right? It's like ARKK, right? It formed a big base and it broke out, and so far it's been acting pretty well here. It keeps forming flags, like mini flags, and then just keeps breaking out higher. So this is one that I like, and it has been showing some decent relative strength, right? And this is also a stock that can go up a lot because look at 2020's breakout, right? Went from at $53 to $372, right? So this is a name that has huge potential and one that we should be watching closely. Okay, let's go to the next one. See what I got. Okay, so we talked about this one a little bit. Spotify, right? This one also looks really strong, right? It formed the base for almost 3 years, almost 4 years, right? And then it had a huge breakout back in 2024, right? Big rally here, and then it consolidated, formed a little base, right? And then it took off again from earnings, right? So here was the earnings gap up, right? And again, this one is holding its earnings gap up level, right? But if it doesn't, then this would be the target, the gap fill play, right? And then clear resistance around that 652 level, right? So if we can take that out, then that would be very bullish. Next one, bros. So this is another one that had multiple earnings gap ups in a row, right? So here's the first one, here's the second one, right? When you see back-to-back earning gap ups, it's a very clear sign that institutions are buying up into the stock because of that huge volume, right? And yeah, this one also made a move from what, 35 to 86 in like 3 months, right? So very impressive here. This one looks very choppy on the weekly chart, but it is a recent IPO, or not that recent, but 3 years ago, right? So relatively recent, and it's breaking out of its IPO base now. So this is one that has a lot of potential and can really make a big move from here. Hood, this is one that I've always liked, and it's getting a decent bounce here. This one I'm a little bit cautious about because it's kind of forming a bear flag, right? Right, this is kind of the pole, and this is the flag, right? So that's what I don't like about this one. But if you look at the weekly chart, let me clean up my chart. Right, this one just had a big breakout out of its base, and then it got extended, and now it's pulling back in. But yeah, this one didn't even take out its IPO highs yet, right? So this is one that has potential to make a move like Palantir. Once Palantir broke out of its base, it had a huge move, right? And I think Hood is similar, it gives me a similar look to PLTR. So I think once this breaks out, this could make a huge move. And it already made a really big move from the start of the year, and even like a year ago, right? It was back under $10 a year ago. So this already 5x'd. This is a name that not a lot of people know about, but this is one that looks really good to me. Right? It went from like $8 to 123 in a year. So yeah, this one has huge potential, right? Huge breakout, formed the base, and then broke out again, and then formed another base. Now it's trying to break out again. So if this one breaks out, this is one to watch. So this is Roadblocks. This is another one that formed the base, right? Had a nice breakout, formed the flag, or it's forming a flag right now. So if this one breaks out of its flag, this is going to be a name that can definitely 2x from here. Again, this is a recent or more recent IPO, and nowhere close to its IPO's highs yet. So this one has a lot of potential to 2x from here. Netflix. So this is another one, just like Spotify, right? And this one has been kind of leading the big caps. This one pulled back the least so far, and it's been holding up its earnings gap up so far. So yeah, this one looks really good to me. Key support 953, key resistance around that 1,000 whole number, right? So if it breaks 1,000, then this one is one to keep a close eye on. CRS. This is another one that a lot of people haven't heard of, but has been holding up incredibly well this week, right? When everything is going down, this one is actually forming a flag and looks ready for a big breakout, right? So that's a very bullish sign. It's forming an inside week on the weekly chart, right? So it looks really good. Looks like it's ready to break out anytime now, or any day now, right? So this is one that I'm watching closely for next week. EAT. So this is another one that has been holding up incredibly well, right? It's starting to form a nice flag here after a big move up, right? It went from around $59 to $192 in like 6 months, so pretty impressive. Yeah, this one looks pretty good on the daily chart as well, right? Key resistance would probably be around like this this level, right? Rejected here, we're rejected here again, and it looks like it's testing it now. So ideally what I want is like an inside bar on Monday maybe, right? Form some sort of flag, and then I want to see that big move. So TTWO, this one's another one that has been holding up really well, right? Look at that weekly chart. It looks really good, trying to make new all-time highs. Formed like a nice base here, right, for a couple months, and then broke out. So this one has a lot of potential for sure, right? And so far, from the big gap up, it's been going sideways. It's consolidating its gains, right? So that's a good sign. And yeah, this one looks like it wants, or it's tightening up and forming a flag here for the next leg up. So this one looks good to me. Root, this one looks really good. It had a earnings gap up sometime last week, yeah, I think on Thursday, and it's been holding up pretty well, right? This is another name that, again, not a lot of people have heard of, but it went from $7 to 141 in a year, right? So huge potential and huge volume, right, in these gap ups from its previous gap ups. So this one looks really good to me. HIMS, this one a lot of people have been talking about recently. That got a pretty nice weekly candle, right? It went all the way down to 36, 35, but closed pretty strong around that 45 level. So that's good action. Again, this one is similar to HUD in that it's kind of forming a bear flag. So I'm a little bit cautious, but if it breaks that 45 level, then it should be good to go. But yeah, this one is kind of forming a bear flag, so just watching out for that. Almost done. GRRR, right? This one, it has huge volume. First of all, right? If you zoom out, this is huge volume compared to what it used to have before. Right? So something's definitely happening with the stock, and it went from $2 to 30, and it's been holding up for quite some time now. Right? So this is one to keep an eye on. It's forming clear resistance around that 31 level, right? 30.66. So if it breaks that, this could be a good setup to buy. And then finally, Costco. This one has earnings coming up this week, but this one is just insanely strong, right? This is probably one of the strongest names in the market. If you look at like the last couple of years, it's just insane, right? So this is a very high quality name, and it's forming a nice flag into earnings. So very strong uptrend. It had a nice breakout last couple of weeks, and now it's forming a flag. So this one looks really good, and yeah, if it breaks out, it can definitely get past that 1100 level and pretty much gap up and go, right? So this one looks very strong to me. Alright, that's all the names that I had on my list. So now we can go over some ticker requests, and then yeah, we can take it from there. Alright, I'm just gonna go in order. So first one was Palantir, and you guys can start dropping in any questions or yeah, any other ticker requests. Alright, so PLTR. This one looks like it ended up gap filling, right? It filled the gap on Friday and then it tried to bounce, right? So 83 or 84 is definitely going to be a key level for Palantir. There's not really much to see because right now it's just in a very clear downtrend. 84 is the clear resistance. I would say support is around probably 72, right? It got multiple bounces here and then another bounce here. Let's look at the weekly chart. Yeah, it looks like it just got extended, right? And now it's pulling back in. So overall, healthy action. Just because of how strong this name, or how strong of a move this name got, this kind of pullback was kind of expected. So yeah, overall, I'm still bullish on Palantir. MCHP. All right, what do you guys think of this chart? It should be an easy one, right? So I'm guessing this is a semiconductor, right? This one is in a very clear downtrend, right, for the last couple of months. So for that reason alone, this is an easy pass, right? I want to be trading stocks that are in very clear uptrends, and not stocks that are like very choppy like this, right? When you trade stocks like this, you're you're kind of setting your probabilities to be low because you're trading a name that is very choppy and historically doesn't tend to go anywhere, right? Compare this chart to something like Nvidia, right? You want to be trading names that trend nicely, like Nvidia, and avoid names that tend to chop around and pretty much go nowhere. That's just my trading style. There's no like right or wrong. I'm just giving you guys my input. But yeah, let's look at the daily chart. This one had a nice bounce off the lows, so I do like that. Seems like it's forming some sort of flag. But yeah, if it breaks this flag, it could be good. Probably some resistance around that 60 area. So if it breaks that, it could be good for a short-term bounce. So one person asked, do you see any sector rotation taking place from tech to financials or healthcare or consumer staples? I think right now there's not much of a rotation, right? I think tech is a little bit weaker, but that's usually the case when a market pullback starts, right? Tech is usually the one to pull back more because there's more money in tech, right? So yeah, tech goes up the most, but it also pulls in the most as well because it's more volatile. But in general, it doesn't look like there's much rotation going on. Both SPY and QQQ did pull back. SPY did close a little bit stronger, so I think there's maybe some slight rotation, but not a big deal at this point, at least. Yeah, that's what I would say for now. Alright, next ticker request, BBAI. This one looks, it looks like it had a big breakout, and now it's pulling back in, right, pretty hard. Let's look at the daily chart. So some clear resistance around that, yeah, 4.75 area, right? It rejected here multiple times, and then it had a big breakout. It 2x'd, right? And now it's pulling back in. And so far, it's just bouncing off this 4.77 level, so that's good. But this one kind of lost all of its momentum here now, right? So this is one I would kind of avoid for now, wait for it to form some sort of flag. So what I want to see is it gets a nice bounce, right, off the lows, and then it forms some sort of flag, and then I want to be buying that flag, right? So this is the best entry. The best entry is usually not at the lows because this is a very, very low probability setup, right? You want to wait for some momentum to come in, right? Form a flag and then break out. That's the A plus setup. All right, cat. So this one looks like it's been in a steady uptrend, and then since like last March, it's kind of gone it's kind of been very, very choppy, and it's gone sideways, right? So clear resistance for this one at that 408 level, right? And then some clear support around this 327 level. We tried to undercut it multiple times, but every single time we ended up bouncing, right? So yeah, those are the key support resistance areas. Yeah, on the daily chart, you can't really say much because it's currently just choppy, very, very choppy, right? So it had some clear support at that 357 level, right? Multiple bounces here, and then it kind of lost it. And then again, another clear support at that 336 level, right? Multiple bounces last week. So that's good. But if we end up losing 336, 327 is the target, and then first target for now is 357. Looks like some resistance around this area as well. It's been going sideways the last couple of days. But yeah, overall this one is choppy, and not the biggest fan of this one. TTD. This one should be kind of obvious because of earnings, right? So this had a really, really bad earnings report, and it flushed from like 120 to all the way down to like 80, right? So really, really bad earnings report. That's a sign of weakness, right? It's a sign that institutions are running out of this name, right? So something went really, really bad here. Weekly chart looks pretty. It's like it's back in the base that it formed back in 2023, right? So this one is pretty much going nowhere. Key support is going to be that 63 level. Key resistance 91, 92, right? Let's look at the daily chart real quick. Yeah, I don't see anything else. Maybe one more key level would probably be around that 77 level, right? We got 3 touches here, 3 bounces, so that's going to be a key resistance level as well. But yeah, overall this one is bearish right now. MMM. So this one got pretty nice breakout recently, right? Formed a nice base here and then got a nice breakout. So this one it's definitely in a strong uptrend, right? It's making new all-time high or new 52-week highs, so that's a good sign. It's showing relative strength, right? A lot of names are pulling back or pulled back last week, but this one is actually making new 52-week highs. So this one I'm bullish on, and it looks good to me. Right, FANG. This one looks pretty choppy to me, right? It pretty much has been going sideways for 2 years, and then it had a breakout, but now it's coming back into that base. So yeah, this one is forming a trend line here, right? Until it takes out this trend line, this will continue to be in its downtrend that it formed for like the last 6 months, right? So this one, there's no real setup until it breaks that trend line, and looks like key support will be around this 153 level. Palo Alto Networks. This one looks decent, right? So key resistance around that 202 level. It was in a nice uptrend, and then it kind of broke its trendline support in December. But overall, it still looks fine to me. It's kind of just going sideways here. Right, I would say key support is around that 180 level, right? We got a bounce here, we undercut, and then we got a bounce again here, right? So that's how I would look at it. Yeah, on the daily chart, it looks pretty choppy, right? Clear resistance at that 200 level, and then clear support at 180, right? So The clear leader in the sector would be CrowdStrike. Right, this one had a very nice breakout. It made new all-time highs. Now it's pulling back in, but I think this one is much stronger compared to Palo Alto Networks. But overall, both names are pretty good. Alright, let's go over you. Okay, so this one it's kind of stuck in chop, right? So since 2023 or since 2022, this one has been going sideways, right, for quite some time. It actually formed the base and then it broke down, right? So when you're breaking down from a base, that's pretty bad, right? It's a sign that there's no buyers to hold up the stock, right? So it's actually making a lower, or it's making a new base, right, all the way back down to like this base, right? It made a new base, and it looks like it's trying to break out of its base. It had a nice earnings report, and last week it formed the inside bar, so that is a good setup here, right? Let's look at the daily chart. Yeah, so it is holding up its gap up, so that's a good sign for sure, and it is forming a nice flag here. So this actually looks pretty good to me. Yeah, I like it. Big volume, big gap up, forming a nice flag. Pretty good risk reward setup here. So if it breaks Friday's highs, I think this is a good one to buy for Monday. App. So this one is similar to Palantir, right? Right now it got extended, and then it did get extended, and right now it's pulling back in, right? So key support for this one will be around that 307 level, right? Yeah. So it looks like it had a big shakeout candle on Wednesday, and now it's forming a flag here. So this one's actually viable for a bounce play here, right? It's forming a flag. So if it takes out Friday's highs, that's how you can buy, and then stop loss would be Friday's lows, right? So you would be risking around 8%, but you have much bigger like upside potential here, right? If it just goes back to all-time highs, that's a 56% move, right? So this is one that has potential for sure. Coin. So this is one that's coming back into its base, right? So it formed a nice base here, and then it broke out in November, right? It was consolidating well, and then it pulled back in, and then consolidated well again, right? It bounced off that 270 level, but now it completely lost it. So that's not a good sign. It's back in the base, and I think clear support level is going to be around that 197 level, right? Because that's the gap fill play. So I think it's very likely that this one pulls back in a little bit more and fills that gap. But on Friday it did get a nice reversal candle, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely bearish on this one for now. LRCX, Lamb Research. Alright, so this one again, it's stuck in a base, right? So clear resistance around the 86 level, clear support around that 71 level, right? Unless it breaks out in either direction, there's not much going on in this one, right? It's just going to go sideways. So there's no setup here. And I would say this one is a clear avoid for now. Yeah, daily chart looks very choppy as well. So this one's an easy skip or pass. Dell, this one is also kind of similar, right? It's been going nowhere for the last couple months, almost a year now. So definitely some clear resistance around that 128 level. I'd say a clear support around that 98 level, close to 100. Right? Yeah, so this one again, it's kind of going nowhere, right? The last couple months it's been very choppy. It tried to break out but failed, and now clear support around that 100 level. That's where it bounced off on Friday. So yeah, this one also no setup for me. But yeah. MSTR. So this one, it's very similar to coin, right? It broke down, right, from its base. It was forming a pretty nice base, and then it broke down. So broke down last week. Got a decent candle on Friday. I do like that reversal candle. It looks like it did gap fill here, right? So yeah, let's look for the next support level. I would say there's some support around 225 area, right? We rejected here, consolidated right before a big breakout, right? And then we ended up bouncing again off that level. So that's definitely a key level, and that would be my target for the downside, 225. But on Friday, it did get a nice close, nice candle, so that's good. Google, this one does look pretty solid to me. Let's look at the weekly chart. So I say it looks solid because this one has been in a very, very strong uptrend, right? So last week was definitely not healthy, or it was a big flush for sure. But if you look at this big picture, it's kind of just forming a base here, right? So let me redraw this actually. Right, so clear resistance around that 191 level, right? We formed a nice flag here. We tried to break out, but ended up failing. And now we're just pulling back into the base. So really, like, we're just going sideways. There's no like bear market starting or anything, right? There's no reason to really get afraid until we break that 151 level, right? If we break that 151 level, then we're starting to make a lower low, right? And then that's when we can actually run into something where we go into a bigger correction like this back in 2021, right? So overall, this one still looks healthy to me. But yeah, it is a wide range, so you have to play this one carefully. I would say next support level would probably be around, there's definitely one around this level, around here. Yeah, see multiple rejections here, and then we bounced, and then again we're bouncing off that on Friday, so that would be the key support level for now. And then if you guys have any more ticker requests, feel free to send them. There's no limit to ticker requests, so yeah, keep going. Oxy. Alright, so this one has clear resistance around that 73 level, right? Clear support around that 55 level, or yeah, and we ended up breaking down, right? And now it looks like it's forming some clear support at that 46 level now, right? So this one overall, it's still very, very choppy, and doesn't look good to me, right? This is a name that's in a downtrend. I like to focus on names that have strong momentum and are in uptrends, right? So compare this chart to something like Root, right? This is one that's just looking like it's getting ready to break out, right? Showing huge relative strength, and compare that with something like Oxy, right? This is just very, very choppy, going nowhere. So for that reason, I like to avoid names like this and focus on names like this, right? Okay, next one, Mara. Alright, so clear resistance around that 30 level, clear support around that 4. So there was some support around 13.95, around 14, right? And it looks like it's trying to break that. If it does lose that, then the next support level would be around $5. So yeah, on the daily chart, it looks like we did break that 13.95 level, but we tried to close above it on Friday. But it looks like it didn't happen, or we closed right around it. So we'll see what happens next week. But if we're unable to hold 14, then very, very good chance that we could flush all the way down to $5 again. No, I forgot AMD and AMD. Okay. All right. let's look at AMD real quick. So AMD is definitely very bearish, right? This one, it's in a very strong downtrend. So this is one that you definitely want to avoid for now, until it breaks this line at least, right? This one is a very clear avoid. You want to be focusing on the strongest names like Nvidia, right? This one has been holding up in its base for quite some time now, versus AMD. This one is getting killed, right? So it's a very clear sign that institutions are kind of running out of the stock because something is wrong. I'm not sure what, right? But obviously, many shareholders are selling, right? So something's going on here. It's not showing any relative strength at all, right? So clear support is going to be around that 95 level. If we end up losing that, then this one could go all the way back to 2022 lows, which is around that 55 level. So for this one, I'm currently bearish. And then ANET. So this one, it's also currently going through a correction, right? It was forming a very strong uptrend, and it broke that in January or February, right? And now it's going through a correction, so this one could pull back a little bit more. Clear resistance around that 120 level, clear support around that 92, 93 level, right? So it looks like it's trying to hold that. But yeah, overall this one, it's very bullish because it's been in a very strong uptrend, right? So some correction here is completely normal, but yeah, short term it's bearish, but long term I think this one is it has the potential to be a leader like Nvidia and Broadcom, right? So this one I like long term. All right. And then you also asked for so yeah, so this one looks like this is a semiconductor ETF, just FYI for anyone that doesn't know. This one looks like it was going sideways, right? It was tightening up here, and it looks like it's breaking down, or it tried to break down last week. So definitely not a bullish sign, right? This one is very choppy, and it's breaking down right now. So this is one that I would avoid, and if anything, it's a short. This is a short play than a long play. But yeah, all right, let's go back to Grab. So Grab looks pretty good to me, right? This one has been forming a base for quite some time, right? It's pretty much just going sideways. Key resistance was 4, key support was 2, right? And now it's forming a base here again. So key resistance around 5, key support around 4.37. Yeah. So this one pretty much is kind of just chopping around here, right? There's no setup. It is forming a mini like flag setup over here, right? But not a lot of momentum here, right? It hasn't really gone up much the last couple weeks. So this one, it's kind of choppy. I would wait for some like more momentum to come in, right? So wait for some big volume, big move, right? And then wait for the flag to form, and then the breakout, right? This is where you want to buy. This is the best spot to be buying, right? You want to wait for that momentum. I can't speak. You want to wait for that momentum to come in first, because that makes it a much higher probability play versus buying it right here, right? But yeah, overall this one, it's kind of choppy, and until it breaks that 5.33 level, this would be an avoid for me. But it is breaking out of its base if you look at the weekly chart. So overall this one looks slightly better than the other ones that I said were choppy. Okay, Tesla. So Tesla looks like we cover this one, but just to recap, right? Tesla key resistance or key support around that 274 level, right? So if we end up losing it, then we are going to gap fill, or it's very likely to gap fill and get that move back down to 255, right? So really needs to bounce here. The next target is 255. Yeah, that's it for Tesla. Look at Reddit. So Reddit looks like it had a pretty big correction, right, off the lows. Went from 230 to 156, and right now it's been holding on to that 156 level pretty well, so that's good. If it takes out that 170 level, right, that's where it's kind of rejected earlier last week. If it takes out 170, good chance we get a move back to 183, and then potentially back up to that new all-time high area, right? So I would say resistance around that 205 and then back to 230. But this one has been holding up pretty well, relatively compared to other names, right? So it's not a bad stock here. It looks like it's just forming a base, pulling back down to its support level. So this one looks pretty good to me. Okay, Aqua. So this one had a very, very strong breakout, but now it's pulling back in, right? So the strongest names, they will always break out, but they won't give back too much, right? So they'll always pull back in just like 25% of the overall rally, right? So this one, it kind of looks like this, right? You had a big breakout and it pretty much pulled in all the way back to the start, right? So this one I don't like because of that. The strongest names, they always only pull back like 25%, right? So this one, it's kind of acting weaker, and I think good chance that it could come back all the way down to 26 level, right? So this one I'm currently short-term bearish on. UPST. So UPST, this is another one that's kind of stuck in its base, right? It tried to break out here, and it was working out well, and then tried to break out again from the earnings gap up, but it's pulling back in again. So I would say clear support for this one would be on that, probably around this area, like 62 area. Key resistance definitely around 82, right? So this one that's currently just going sideways for now. Yep. ITW, I've never heard of this name, but it looks like it's in a pretty strong uptrend, right? The only problem with this is that it's relatively slow, like it moves slowly. But yeah, overall this one, it's in a strong uptrend. Key resistance probably around that 271 level, key support here, and it looks like it's breaking its previous high. So yeah, key resistance around that 265 level. And if it breaks that, then this one is bullish for sure. And then it has room up to 271 and then 280. So this one I do like. It's just a little bit of a slower mover. SE. Alright, so this one, it's in a very strong uptrend, right? So again, I talked about this one a little bit earlier, but this one I really, really like. It's breaking out here on the weekly chart, right? It broke out of its base. Now it's just slow grinding up. So very, very bullish on this one. And this one has a lot of potential, right? 2020 it went from $50 to $372. So this one has a lot of potential to 2x, right? So this one I'm definitely bullish on. Alright, I'm just going to go a little bit faster now for the sake of time. Planning on stopping the stream around 10 or 11 EST, right? So JD, this one looks like it's still stuck in its base, right? So clear resistance around the 42 level, clear support 21 level, right? So if it breaks out here, this one looks good to me. If it breaks that 43 level specifically, right? That's where it keeps getting rejected here twice. So if it breaks that, then this one is bullish. Yeah. But I think Baba is currently the leader. This one's acting much, much stronger, and it already broke out of its base, right? So this one, it's definitely the leader for China right now. Bill, this one, it's very clearly bearish, right? This one has been stuck in a base, and it's actually, yeah, coming back all the way down to the bottom of its base. So this one, it's very obvious, right? Very, very bearish, and looks like some big volume on that sell candle. So this one's an easy avoid for sure. Datadog, so this one has been forming a base here again, right? Let's update this. So looks like key support around that 110 level, key resistance around 133, So this one again, it's just back in its base, no setup here, right? This one could end up chopping around for quite some time. So I could chop here, right? Until it breaks that 133 level again, right? This one won't really have much momentum, so this one is a clear avoid for me for now. SMCI. This one again, it's trying to break out of its base, right? So clear resistance around that 50 area. Support will be around 20. Oops. Let's look at the daily chart. Daily chart looks like it's pretty much just going sideways here, right? So unless it breaks that 50 level again, this one is a easy pass. It's not actionable here for me. SoFi, this one I like a lot. This one has been forming a base here for quite some time, right? So right now there's no setup, but as soon as it breaks 16.6, this one will be a top watch for me, right? I really like this weekly chart. I think it has big potential here, right? Big breakout, and now it's forming a nice base. So this one I do like. So this one, it's definitely huge downtrend, right? This one pulled back in from 260 to 62. So this one, it's definitely very bearish, right? And until it breaks that 85 level, this one is a clear avoid for me. Cat, this one looks like it's losing momentum here, right? It lost that 7.74 level, which was the clear support. Resistance is around 12.36, right? So this one, it has potential to go all the way back down to even around that 4 area. This one, I think it's definitely bearish for now. Oracle, so this one has been holding up decently well. It's pretty much just consolidating here, right? Clear resistance around that 178, and I would say support around that 162 area, right? So until it breaks in either direction, this one is kind of just choppy. I would actually say support is around the 153. So yeah, this one is just going sideways here. Overall, good action. Yeah, but I won't be watching until it breaks 180. So this one overall looks decent to me. ACHR, this one looks like it got a very nice bounce on Friday. So I do like that. Clear support at 7.8. Clear resistance around that 11 area, right? Weekly chart looks good. Yeah, this one I do like. It has been forming the space, so as soon as it breaks out, this is one to keep a very close eye on. Okay, looks like that's pretty much it. I'll do one last one, LUNR. So this one has potential here, right? It did break its support. I would say support was around that 16 or 17 area. Let's look at the daily chart. So definitely some clear support around that 17 area, right? It had clear resistance here and then clear bounce off, and now it just kind of lost that level. So next support would be around that 11.5 area. But overall, this one looks good to me, just because this one went from $30 to 23, right? So there's a lot of potential for this name, but this one might need a good amount of time to consolidate here, right? Because it had such a big move up. So overall, this one looks good to me, but yeah, there's no setup on it for now. Okay, cool. I think I pretty much got all the ticker requests. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to DM me, right? If you guys want to learn more about my process or anything like that, yeah, always feel free to DM me with any questions that you guys have. And yeah, if you guys still have any more ticker requests, just put them in the main chat. But I hope that was helpful. And yeah, have a great rest of your weekend. And yeah, I'm planning on doing these streams maybe once a week or once every other week. So I hope that was helpful. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any suggestions to make it better. Yeah, thank you guys.
There's a reason why Xtrades is currently the fastest growing application on the market for sharing financial ideas. With over $2.5 million paid in the last 2 years to contributors, users are flocking to see what trades the top traders on the leaderboard are sharing in real time. If you're looking to grow your reputation as a trader on the internet or discuss your trading ideas with other reputable investors, click the link below and get connected with a trading mentor today, completely free of charge.